Recording in progress. So no, it's going to be
Okay. All right.
echo feedback.
Okay.
Good morning, Masi. Can you please just confirm if we have members online and if we can start?
Good morning, Chair. Good morning to honorable members and colleagues. Yes, Chairperson, we can start. Present today, two Chairperson, Honorable Potgieter, Honorable Letlape, Honorable Ndamase, Honorable Qilishe. Honorable Botu has indicated on the group that she will join the meeting in the next 30 minutes. So we are good to go, Chairperson. Also, just to confirm, Chairperson, in our presence, we've got Commissioner Professor Amakanya, present, Chair, from the PSC. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, wonderful. And I think we are then good to go. And then I can just take this opportunity to welcome everybody to this morning's committee meeting. Thank you for making the time. It's really appreciated. I have received no formal apologies, except Masi, if there's any additional apologies you wish to bring to my attention.
Not at this stage, Chairperson. Thank you so much.
Okay, wonderful. So members, in October of this year, the PSC invited the committee to attend its professionalization framework strategic workshop to map out the implementation strategy which will guide the implementation and the coordination and the uniformity across the public sector. So a really important priority. And it's towards building a capable, ethical, and developmental state, which is obviously, as we all know, a key priority of the seventh administration. And as the committee charged with this responsibility to oversee the implementation of the framework, we decided that it'd be a good idea to just call the PSC to this meeting and give us some insight into the outcomes of the strategic workshop. Honorable Kaba, Honorable Potgieter, our content advisor, and myself attended the first day of the workshop, and it was very thought-provoking. But we did not attend the full session and look forward to receiving the outcomes with the committee this morning. Members, please know that the outcomes of this workshop on the implementation of the professionalization framework is very important for our oversight priorities during our work in the 7th Parliament. So I hope you enjoy, and with those few words, let me allow the presenter from the PSC to provide us with some opening remarks and to introduce the staff, please, that are present, and also the talk us through the commitments by the various stakeholders in the plan to implement the professionalisation framework. So I hand over to the PSC. Thank you very much.
Good morning, dear honourable members of Parliament. My name is Zukiso Mkolomba. I'm the Deputy Chairperson of the Public Service Commission, and I will be leading the delegation of the Public Service Commission in presenting today to the Portfolio Committee on Public Service and Administration the outcomes of the strategy workshop on the implementation of the professionalisation framework. We have DDG Irene Matendra, who is accompanied by Mr. Cameron Jacobs, who will be presenting on behalf of the Public Service Commission as the Secretariat, who was responsible for organizing the retreat. Otherwise, from our end, we'd like to thank you very much to the chairperson and his delegation for attending the retreat. I think one thing that came up very strongly is the need for better coordination, collaboration, and partnerships, and the need to be very clear about who's the key custodian, the main custodian of the implementation of the professionalization framework. We had intended to engage with the presidency, with the Minister of Public Service and Administration in Salga during the course of this month. So the presentation we're presenting this morning is a preliminary presentation to the Portfolio Committee. Otherwise, thank you very much for having supported us, for having joined us, and for having been part of very insightful, instructive, incisive engagements on how to make sure that we bring to reality and to life the implementation of the professionalization framework. I now hand over to DDG Irene Matendra from the Public Service Commission. Thank you very much.
A very good morning to the Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, honorable members in attendance, the Deputy Chairperson of the Public Service Commission, commissioners in attendance here. DC, we are with Commissioner Mavuso in the bottom here, and colleagues, a very good morning once more. We'll be presenting to the committee the outcome of the retreat session held by the PSC on the professionalization workshop. And thank you, Commissioner, for touching on some of the key issues that came out quite strongly. But I think what one needs to emphasize is really the foundational elements to ensure that we gain traction on the implementation of the framework, not just as the public service, but as a public sector. The complexities that come with implementing the framework amidst the pending legislative reviews and in the absence of a single public service, and bringing in on entities on board with the situation as it is right now. And thanks, Chairperson DC, for also reiterating the fact that the Public Service Commission has not as yet engaged, at least with the MPSA, as it came out quite strongly at the retreat, that the ownership, the coordination, and so on is bestowed on the MPSA. So that is one thing that is still pending. And we are also presenting this outcome of the retreat session at the time when government is busy with its planning process in terms of the MTDP, and there has not been a finalization in respect of the MTDP. So the Public Service Commission can be confident and say to the Commission, the issues that are contained in the framework are well encapsulated in the MTDP, and therefore they will flow nicely into the APP of government departments for our oversight later on. So those are some of the things that we really want to bring to the attention of the committee. My colleague here, Cameron, will be doing the presentation, and then I think we'll come in later if we need to make any additional comments. Thank you, and over to you, Cameron.
Thank you, DDG. Good morning, honorable members of the Portfolio Committee. Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, Commissioners, once again, and good morning to my own colleagues. I just want to make sure that I'm audible, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. We can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So, in respect of the strategic workshop that took place on the 28th to the 30th of October, I think just a couple of preliminary comments before I go through the presentation, outlining the presentation. I think that in contrast to the stakeholder retreat that we had in 2023, there appeared to be, in terms of this particular strategic workshop, I think a lot more certainty, a lot more acceptance around the complexity of the professionalization framework, as opposed to where we were in July 2023. So I think that is a sort of a good point of departure. Secondly, I think that it was quite intense. Throughout the 3 days, it was quite intense. It was quite robust. But at the end of the day, we got very good outcomes that came from that, and good commitment, I think, from the variety of different entities, ranging from DPME to the presidency, to the National School of Government. So I think that sort of augurs well. In terms of the presentation outline, I just want to take you through the genesis of the strategic workshop, exactly why we actually had it and how we got there. And then core concern around the AXA AG South Africa report, around progress implementation. This was a report that was submitted by the AG in 2024. And then the objectives of the strategic workshop. Crucially, I think the outcomes of the breakaway groups and the kind of themes that we had in the breakaway groups and why, the proposed areas of focus, and more importantly, the strategic workshop outcomes. I am trying to portfolio committee members. Okay, sorry, I was having problems in changing the my slides. So, you know, the genesis of the workshop, it really stems from our stakeholder retreat that we had in July 2023. And the purpose and the reason for why the Public Service Commission had that stakeholder retreat is because we observed that notwithstanding the kind of euphoria at the time in October 2022, when Cabinet adopted the professionalization framework, there was sort of a dearth, if you will, around what to implement, how to implement. And there was certainly a lack of consensus by stakeholders on the implementation of the framework itself, which is why we held the stakeholder retreat. And so some of the objectives of that retreat was to unpack the most effective means to develop a comprehensive and sequential action plan to contextualize the professionalization framework, in particular in terms of paradigm change, public sector reform, character formation, and capability. And then to identify priorities and to consider the establishment of governance structure. But unfortunately, between July 2023 and October 2024, we still sort of noticed across the board that even though work has been done by key drivers, they're not done in the manner in which was envisaged by the professionalization framework. It was still obtuse, it was haphazard, it was patchy in certain circumstances. And in others, it was contradictory to the ideals of the professionalization framework. So there was just compelling evidence from our side and from AGSA side that the implementation is in fact being hindered by the lack of the core foundational elements that are yet to be realized. And then the complexity of the overall of the professionalization framework. It is a complex document, and I don't think at the time portfolio committee members, when this was adopted by Cabinet, entities have fully realized and appreciated just how complicated it is to implement the professionalization framework, because it requires an overhaul of the public sector. It requires a change of thinking, a change in paradigm. And you can't it cannot be implemented in a compliance service. It remains
Chairperson, let me reconnect with my team and ask them to rejoin.
Thank you. I was just wondering if it's just my side, but it seems like we've lost them.
lost us.
Yeah, you should be fine. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We are back online.
Okay, Chair, may I just ask where you left us, where I left you?
You were on the screen with the with the donkey. And how do I explain?
Sorry.
Literally 2 minutes ago.
Okay,
Mr.
2 minutes
Common
ago.
Jacobs,
Okay.
there's a slide with the donkey that says it's too good to be true.
Yes.
um, um, how do we?
You were explaining the complexities and that the previous committee might not have been fully aware of how complex it was.
Okay, the complexity. If you can hear me, line.
We can hear you
Yes.
now, Mr. Jacobs.
Yes.
In the framework itself.
Didi Irene, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
I think Didi Irene cannot hear us. Let me call them and ask them what's going on, Chairperson.
Please do. Please do. Thank you.
Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, this is just to notify the committee and honorable members of the committee that we are experiencing technical glitches in the office. The team members will join in the next 2 minutes. Our sincere apologies.
No problem. Thank you.
Do your thing.
Members, can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Our sincere apologies, Chairperson and members, for that glitch, and we hope that it won't possibly happen again. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we can hear you, and I can see the presentation, and yeah, that's where we left off.
Okay, thank you so much. You will find later, Chairperson, that one of the sort of priority areas that came out from the workshop would be around ICT and digitization, and I think it's dearly needed. So yes, so I was speaking about the sort of complexity, the underestimation of the professionalization framework by government entities, and also the fact that there's not a unified public service. It remains an area of public concern. I mean, an area of concern, and it could be a fault line down the line, and it's something that I think that requires to be managed. And this was reiterated by the AG South Africa, where concerns were raised around the lack of coordination around institutions and spheres of government. Again, around the public service and local government efforts that are not being coordinated, and that there isn't that sort of proper implementation leader to ensure collaboration and accountability of all players. And that came quite strongly from the AG. The AG was rather confused about who's sort of leading the professionalization framework. Now, just in respect of that, and as you look at the next slide, you will see that this comes directly from the professionalization framework. It indicates that the MPSA needs to coordinate and monitor the implementation plans, and the MPSA is regarded as the sort of overall custodian of the professionalization framework. And then, performance and reporting and accountability will go across 3 spheres of government, but again, coordinated by the MPSA. And the discussion has been that this kind of reporting would go through sort of the JISCIT cluster. But it's more important, the reporting is not necessarily the only thing that's important. It's about the coordination. And there's in our sort of report, I'm just jumping a little bit, there is this proposal that's been mooted, and DPME has taken it further around the JISCIT cluster being sort of restructured, if you will, to facilitate the coordination of the professionalization framework through, obviously, the Office of the MPSA. Excuse me. And then the monitoring, design, and development processes happens through the Department of Monitoring, Planning, Monitoring, and Evaluation. So, just given that sort of background, the purpose of the strategic workshop was to try and go back to basics, if you will, establish the institutional foundations on which the success of the future interventions rest. Because as I indicated, people underestimated the complexity of it. They started implementing or doing things without there being a foundational foundations laid in respect of the framework itself. And then to have this collective understanding of the vision and the aim of the professionalization framework, and in particular to extend that, how it links to, strategic priority 3 of the medium-term development plan of building a capable and ethical and developmental state. The synergy across spheres of government, we have highlighted that as a problem, so that became a core objective. Then the coordinating mechanisms, as well as to ensure policy and legislative certainty and institutional role clarity. And then finally, the identification of strategic priorities so that you can pace the implementation process properly and to avoid the risk of failure. So day 2 of our strategic workshop really focused on breakaway groups to deliberate and discuss on some of the issues that emerged as foundational elements in day 1 and through various discussions, through various presentations. And then ultimately, there were 5 breakaway groups. The first one dealt with strengthening the role of the Public Service Commission and what that actually means. So strengthening the role of the Public Service Commission has come up quite often. You will find it that it exists within the medium-term development plan as well, as part of the implementation of the professionalisation framework. What the group decided there and thought was prudent was that you not only need to tighten and finalize and advocate around the PSC bill and the future role of the PSC, but that needs to be accompanied for fit for purpose organization. In other words, your form follows function, as they say. So there needs to be an organizational of the role of review of the PSC's future role, so that it can ready itself when the Public Service Commission bill is actually in fact promulgated and its mandate is reinforced in respect of entities conducting the public administration function as well as with local government. And that needs to be accompanied by an enhanced budget and resourcing. So there needs to be a lot of discussion with Treasury, just in respect of the kind of mandate and to understand, for entities to understand the broad and important mandate of the Public Service Commission. But the breakaway group wanted to specify a time. And they looked at March 25 as the time when the finalization and promulgation of the PSC bill ought to happen. Head of Public Administration, forgive the spelling error. I only saw it this morning. I think that the important bit around the Head of Public Administration Portfolio Committee members is again started to understand what the Head of the Public Administration means. So one of the reform principles, obviously, it needs to be free from political interference. And in that respect, there may need be changes in policy practice and between the 3 spheres of government. But the important bit around the 3 spheres of government is that if this is the head of public administration, it therefore has a role in respect of the 3 spheres of government. And so that needs to be clarified. And along with that would be the function, the location, and the principles and the analysis attached to the head of public administration. And so the breakaway group felt quite strongly that what needs to happen now is you need to have a task team that's put in place to develop or to look at the sort of policy and legal opinion on the establishment of HOPA in the public service or / public administration. Because I think that's sort of critically important and a core part of the foundational element. As I indicated in previous meetings, I think if you get this wrong about the appointment, the function, the location, and the principles of the head of public administration, a lot of things could adversely flow from that. The third breakaway group specifically dealt with the appointment of municipal managers and Section 56 managers within local government. And the reform principles there is to look at the redesign of the recruitment and selection for MMs and also Section 56 managers. Excuse me. And like in the same vein, in terms of national and provincial government, where the Public Service Commission is in charge of the database of technical experts, the same applies to local government. That notwithstanding the council retains the power to appoint, but that matter around technical experts to assist the council in appointing and sort of understanding the role of MM or Section 56 managers becomes particular opposite. But the challenge has been and has been for a while is the one of legislative reform and clarity again around the respective roles of the various institutions responsible, in particular in the context of local government with the Public Service Commission and the Department of Cooperative Governance. And that requires clarification. Um, um, and that, you know, you can't deal with the subject matter experts properly unless you sort of properly clarify the respective roles of the PSC and DIRCOC. But I think there was sort of caution that by this particular breakaway group, that in terms of pacing and sequence, is important not to move too quickly. Because, you know, you want to be able to create that sort of energy, that sustainability, that momentum. And so you need to be very selective of how you're going to move and proceed. And again, sort of linking the what is happening at provincial and national government should be linked to what is happening at local government level. So there needs to be that delinking of the MM to the term of office from the political principle concerned. And that has been done, or at least trying to be done in terms of the Public Service Act, and the same also needs to happen at the local government level. Then the professionalization of key occupations was identified as another foundational element, with the key principles of institutional reform and the meritocratic recruitment and selection system. And the institutional reform becomes particularly important because it's not just about the individual, but whether the institution itself is fit for purpose. And I think that's sort of an important indicator, an important foundational element going forward. Notwithstanding the key occupations that were identified for priority, it is the human resource management sector, the ICT sector, the finance sector, and the SEM sector. And so the thinking by this breakaway group is, you know, don't bite more than you can chew. Do this incrementally. Focus on sort of priority occupations that again would have a multiplier effect on professionalization across the board. And this was sage advice, and it was sage advice given to us by the presidency, by the project management of the presidency, was in charge of Operation Vulindlela. So they indicated to us, you know, it's best to treat this as a project, look at priorities that you can achieve, and then from there incrementally move forward in terms of that. And so the pace of interventions here is to create positive disruptors and to focus on particular areas in which professionalization would make an impact and a difference, and when there's already buy-in from particular sectors. The last sort of breakaway group was political leadership and orientation, and this emanated in particular because of the keynote address of the MPSA on day one. And the reform principle is how do you decrease the trust deficit, and how do you improve constitutional accountability? And so the role, process, the kind of interventions that is envisaged here is to the existing induction programs that are in place is for them to be augmented, and to be specifically targeted, to ensure that executive authorities and those persons in authority have a very quaint and particular understanding of professionalization and the political and administrative interface. That also extended to advisors, by reviewing the role of the advisor and that relationship between the advisor and the department concerned, and the importance to have stringent competency requirements and attributes in respect of the appointment advisors. The group felt here that there needs to be collective responsibility between the BSC, DPSA, and NSG and presidency to report and biannually on the state of political administrative interface. And as I indicated to people earlier this morning, the issue of a trust deficit is sort of key. It exists currently within the medium-term development plan as an indicator to measure the political administrative interface. From those sort of discussions that we had of portfolio committee members, there were a number of areas that were identified that should be areas of focus and priority. One, it's institutional role clarity, and that is around you know, the PSC, the DPSA, for example, understanding the head of public administration. These are core aspects that requires it to be clarified so that one can move forward in terms of the professionalization framework. Fit for purpose institutions. Institutions have a massive role to play, but they will not be able to play that role if they're not properly capacitated. And I think that's sort of core. It's not just about the individual that needs to be professionalized, but it's also about the institution that needs to be fit for purpose. The alignment of regulatory frameworks, I think, is still an important issue. Just looking at the range of core legislation, there needs to be assurance that those pieces of legislation actually speak to each other. Information and technology and digitization, given where we are in terms of trying to shift in terms of the fourth IR, and just to ensure greater effectiveness, efficiency, looking at the ICT system and looking at the digitization of departments is sort of another foundational area. And then there's a strategic prioritization of professionalization of occupations that came up quite strongly, where I spoke about earlier on in the previous slide, but also the importance of valid and relatable data for planning. And that sort of requires sort of relationships with Stats SA, with HSRC, just in terms of the data that one is using for planning purposes, and trying to strengthen those relationships and institutions so that you're able to get up-to-date, valid, and reliable data. And then the last but not the least is the costing and budgeting of the professionalization framework. It still remains as a bit of a challenge, as an issue. We know that sort of the first year of the NDTP, the base year, departments are not going to get additional funding for the professionalization framework, and in certain areas it's going to cost a lot of money, but there needs to be that discussion around costing and budgeting. Final two slides, members of the portfolio committee, is that the workshop outcomes that we had, I think that were quite good. They were specific, and they were time bound. One was a draft executive summary of the strategic outcomes of the workshop that would be produced by the PSC by November 2024. And this, once we have that in place, to engage then with the MPSA on the outcomes of the workshop, and then to have further engagements with the minister within the cooperative governance, as well as minister in the presidency, on the issues raised in the report. And also for a reference group to be established in some of the sort of core outcome areas of the workshop and to engage with the minister in that respect. We're hoping that once we engage with the MPSA, and we engage with the presidency, that it will find traction within the State of the Nation address. And of course, reviewing core provisions of the Public Service Commission Bill. Portfolio committee members, you're well aware, the PSC did present at the latest hearing on the PSC bill, and just to review and tighten certain aspects of the PSC bill. And then communication and advocacy. One of the things that came out quite strongly as well, especially at the provincial level and the local government level, is that there's not enough understanding and conceptualization of the professionalization framework. And so there needs to be a sort of specific targeted communication and advocacy campaign and engagement with provinces. As a last and final point, portfolio committee members, I can tell you that the Public Service Commission, just in terms of workshop outcome 1, the executive summary, we have completed the draft executive summary, and that will now go through the normal processes internally, and then to engage with the MPSA. I thank you very much.
Chairperson, maybe before we conclude, my name is Vosmuz Marcos, one of the commissioners, to indicate that this should not be seen as a one kind of engagement around this particular matter, that we would do our utmost best to appraise the portfolio committee about what is going to happen next. But I think it's absolutely important for us to engage with the MPSA first, so that at any given point in time, if he so believes that he is updating, we can be able to do so. And he may actually ask to make a submission, or if it happens the other way around, when you ask from the MPSA, there should be information that has been submitted to him by ourselves. We believe that's a very important engagement that relates to how we actually engage one another, so that it should not be viewed as if one part of the loop is actually missing, but there is a continuous and seamless process that looks into these matters. But what is also important is for our engagements with the sphere of local government, because we can't really leave them behind. I'm saying this quite advisedly because in our engagements with SALGA yesterday, this matter came to the fore, because it then suggests that both SALGA and the Minister of COCTA would need to be included into the loop and ensure that all of them are in tandem, so that at the point at which we report to Parliament, either through the Portfolio Committee or otherwise, we can then ensure that everyone is on board insofar as the process going forward is concerned. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that presentation. I will now give members an opportunity to ask questions or deliberate on the presentation as we receive them. Members, please use the raise hand function if you would like to make a comment, and then we will proceed as the raised hands appear in the order they appear on screen. Honorable Potgieter, or not, I see your hand and I think you can kick us off. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairperson. I just wanted to get some clarity. You talked about the redesigning of the recruitment process, but you didn't quite expand on the experts in the selection process. The current process does allow for experts, but the selection is done by the sort of member of the mayoral committee that is responsible, either by the mayor themselves. So if you can explain just how it would be changed in terms of the selection of experts. And then secondly, the thinking behind delinking the municipal manager's term from the political term. If you can just explain the reasoning behind that, because I can sort of predict that it's going to be quite problematic for municipalities. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Knott. Members, is there any other member who would like to make a comment? I don't see any hands at the moment. So I will then just also say well, firstly, I welcome the presentation. Thank you very much for it. I'm a little bit, and it's not to me, this is not a black and white case, and I think it is something which needs to be explored. But the delinking of municipal managers from political office terms, I'm not sure if that will help make them more professional, more merit-based, more independent. Because I think if it's linked, if a municipal manager as basically as a head and as one of the most, as the accounting officer and the highest ranking member of the staff in a local authority, if they need to reapply for their jobs every 5 years, as the administration changes, so if after every local government election, that in my mind could be a very good thing, because it means you need to go and obviously I hinge that, or I hedge it on the process. You know, if you have a very good appointment process, a transparent professional appointment process where you have to reapply to be the municipal manager every 5 years, that is not open for political interference, and that's I guess where you would legislatively need to be strong. I'm not convinced it's a good thing that once you appoint an MM, they are there ad infinitum until they choose to resign. I think it could be a very good thing for them to have to reapply every 5 years, as long as the process of reapplying every 5 years as the administration changes is a sound, professional, transparent and merit-based process. So something to think about. I'm not sure. You know, it's just that what went through my mind as the presentation went on, and then I mean, when it comes to digitalization, we all know how essential that is to the professionalization within the public service, working towards things like a single human resource management system, working towards making sure that public service members don't just get redeployed from one department to another when they have hanging complaints or cases or instances of misconduct which they've been found guilty of. So I think we all understand the incredible importance of the proper digitization of the public service. I am very worried about CETA's role in all this, and that CETA could be a hurdle towards professionalization. And I would hope that would be one of the things that the PSC and the role players also explore, is looking at releasing DPSA, PSC, all of these important bodies for professionalization from the state monopoly which sits in CETA, so that it's a market-driven process where the right best practice digital solutions can be found. So those would be my comments. Members, if there are not any other comments, I see there is one. Dr. Leslape, I see your hand is up. You can proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My question is just a general question, just in relation to what has been said about empowering the Public Service Commission. My question is, in terms of the current bill, is it adequate to aid professionalization, or are there any additions or amendment that you would want to be seen in the Public Service Bill? Because this is the only time that input can be made. And we don't want challenges of, oh, but according to your bill, you are not empowered to do X, you are not empowered to do Y, you are interfering. Without enabling the public service to micromanage other levels of government, is it sufficiently empowered to do its job to ensure that we have one public service and we have common standards about meritocracy, etc., etc.? Is there anything that's missing? Or are we happy that all the bases are covered? If there's something missing, can you make a suggestion where it could be considered at this point in time? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. That's an excellent question. I see no further hands, so I hand back to the PSC for further comments and answering the questions. Thank you.
DG Irene Matendra and Mr. Cameron Jacobs, please feel free to respond to the questions, and commissioners will respond to supplement your answers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, DC, and thank you, Chairperson. I just want to respond to the issue regarding the CETA and the issue of digitization in the public service, but not only the public service, the entire of government, including local government. So what happened, Chairperson, is that in the last 2 years, the PSC embarked on a study to look into the state of ICT and in government. We engaged with CETA, we engaged with the DCDT, we engaged with the Department of Public Service and Administration. We have made very strong recommendations. Some of them, if I can just pull them from the top of my head, was the fact that CETA has to review its act because it had a lot of limitations in terms of how it really supports the public service. So you could see when you look at the act that it was designed from a point of, CETA running a business in government. And so on. They have acceded to that recommendation. We are waiting for to see the progress in respect of the amendment of the CETA Act. The second recommendation was the issue of the procurement model of CETA, which really sought, for lack of a better word, to really swindle government because there was no what we found out is that there was no return on investment. And when we did this, we did not just do it as Public Service Commission. We went on to engage frontline service delivery, such as your Home Affairs, your police, your minerals, and this and that. And SETA was not really playing a role in terms of advising and assisting us in terms of getting the better solutions. And we also brought in AG, where AG has done audits, a lot of audits around the IT space. And they also told us that many of the tools that were bought from SETA, at the end of the day, they did not solve the kind of problems that the public service has. So it's a very good report. Would be happy to come and present it, and would be happy to really get the support of the portfolio committee if we are really to make traction in the public service around the issues of ICT. But very important, again, in that report, we are talking to the Department of Public Service and Administration. You would know, Chairperson, that they have got a responsibility from a policy perspective in terms of norms and standards for ICT in government. The GTO Council sits within that department. The issue of capacity, expertise, and so on in government for those that would run with IT requirements sit within that department. And our study has really shown that, for instance, at the moment, we're doing another study on ICT, but at that time, I think we only had 3% of the staff establishment in the whole of the public service that were focusing on cybersecurity, and hence we have got a lot of cyber attacks, and departments don't even know how to respond to those kind of issues. But very important is the professionalization of those that are in ICT. So there is a better understanding within government in terms of how we transform our service delivery model so it can tap on ICT for the benefit of the citizens. So I was at Home Affairs this morning to collect a document. Again, when I got there, the problem was ICT, and I asked the center manager, what is the problem? He said, our system is down, we have got glitches. And I asked him, is it a Home Affairs issue or is it a SETA? He said, no, it's a SETA problem, which means the PSC recommendations ought to be implemented to the extent that and we want the support of the committee, where SETA has to provide devolution for certain institutions so they can run smoothly. That ought to be done. Look at SARS. Their ICT, they're managing it themselves in the absence of assistance from SETA. And you don't have any issue with SARS when you go to filing, when you do all of these kind of things. They're doing it independently. So we must look into the issue of devolution whilst we are also sorting out the problems of SETA and the problems of ICT capacity in government. Chair, if you allow me, I'll give my colleague to reflect on some of the issues. We note that what we presented to you today is the outcome of the strategic planning session. These are not cast on stone. These are still going to be discussed with the relevant stakeholders, including the minister and the minister in DCOC as well. And as Commissioner Mavuso said earlier on, we shouldn't look at this discussion today as the final discussion. So much is going on right now with the planning of government, and we'll see how things pan out. Let me give to my colleague to make his inputs. Thank you.
Thank you, DDG. And thank you again to Portfolio Committee members. Just in respect of I want to start with the sort of delinking with the MM from the political term. And I think Portfolio Committee members, it's not so much, I think, the process, because I think the process is something that we can deal with. I think it's more important the principle of delinking an MM from the political term of office of council. And the same applies at the provincial and national level, where the tenure, the proposal or the amendment in the Public Service Act is to extend the tenure of a head of department or DG, obviously subject to very strict performance review. But that is part of the process of trying to delink the term of office of a DG or HOD to the political term of office, so that you can try and stabilize that political administrative interface. And yet you ensure that at administrative level, it is a professionalized appointment, or it's a professional appointment that has no bearing on the sort of stability or instability of a political administration concern. So I mean, I think that I do take the point quite sharply about sort of reapplying for the position after 5 years within local government. I think that is a process that has particular merit, but the principle, I think, is an important one. And then in terms of the selection of experts, the professionalization framework has provided that the Public Service Commission, together with the head of public administration, must deal with the recruitment and selection process of HODs, of MMs, of DDGs, I think even. And the PSC's specific role is to develop a database of technical experts to assist the executive authority in the recruitment and selection, and then ultimately the appointment, so that, and to guide the executive authority. And those technical experts, then envisaged role is to sit on those panels together with the executive authority, so that it is objective, it is fair, and we're shifting towards more, or assuring that there is a meritocratic process in the recruitment and selection. The question around the PSC bill, it's a very interesting one, and I take that point entirely, and I will confer with the legal directorate around that. But is the PSC bill adequate to facilitate the professionalization framework? I think that we are getting there, but I don't think that we are quite there. And I think that the variety of different engagements that we had, one at the portfolio committee was 2 weeks ago on the 13th of November, but also our engagements with the bargaining council at local government level. The commissioner also spoke about SALGA. I think there are important points that are coming through that the Public Service Commission needs to take into account in terms of sort of tightening those particular provisions within the bill that perhaps are left ambiguous, and for us to tighten them up. I was also particularly interested, portfolio committee members, in the presentation by the legal services, parliamentary legal services, just around Section 196. And that made me realize when I looked at that, and when I heard the parliamentary legal advisor, that in so much as the presentation spoke about where public service is included in Section 196, the legal advisor herself was quite silent where public service was not mentioned. And I'll give you 6 provisions: Section 196.1, Section 196.2, Section 196.4D, Section 196.4.3E, Section 196.4E, and Section 196.4F1. And as you are aware, that even if legislative interpretation and constitutional interpretation is a very difficult and technical field, but it would mean that if the legislature intended for public service to be included in a provision, it would mean that when it excluded public service from a particular provision, it would therefore be inclusive of public administration. That would be the logic. So even if you look at the provision of directions by the Public Service Commission in terms of transfers, dismissals, it does not mention the public service, which means that it finds applicability within the public administration. Equally so in terms of Section 196.4E, where the Public Service Commission needs to report to Parliament on the compliance with the constitutional values and principles. It is once again that provision silent in respect of public service, which means for me, it finds applicability in the public administration. And so I think, Chair, just to answer that question properly and shortly, is that I think these provisions that I'm identifying now, I think we need to just tighten and strengthen, and so that there is no room for ambiguity in the bill as it currently perhaps is. Thank you.
Yeah, I may probably add one point, Resmus Mavoso, one of the commissioners. The fact that it talks about the administration, there may be a case that certain functions which are being performed currently by the Department of Public Service and Administration may have to be devolved back to the Public Service Commission in the fullness of time. This, of course, emanates from what usually was the original authority of the Public Service Commission, particularly insofar as issuing directives is concerned. I think it's a matter that will have to be revisited, but I'm sure the Portfolio Committee can apply its mind accordingly and be able to advise in a manner that is more systematic with what we believe is the constitutional imperative of Section 196. Thank you, Chair.
Over to you, DC.
Yes, so thank you very much to members of the team for responding to the questions that honorable members of the Portfolio Committee had raised. I think we've presented fully on the outcomes of the professionalization framework, and we hope that to your satisfaction, Chairperson, and the satisfaction of members of the Portfolio Committee, you are satisfied with our responses to your questions. Otherwise, once again, we'd like to thank you very much, Chairperson, for having attended our retreat. And we are hoping to be in regular interaction and engagement as we engage with other stakeholders, which include the presidency, the MPSA, COGTA, SALGA. We will continuously give you an update as the chair and as members of the Portfolio Committee as we progress with this process. Yes, so Chairperson, over to you. I believe that Honorable Member Lean Potgieter and Dr. Tetlape have raised their hands.
Thank you very much, Honorable Potgieter, and first Dr. Tetlape, then Honorable Potgieter after that. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's going to be important that going forward, there be clarity about what the PSC does, what the PSA does, and what the Minister of Public Service does, so that it's not issues that can be taken to court or argued to court, where part of the presentation was clear role definition. And we need to ensure, as the bill is passed, it provides clear role definition about who does what. And I think that's going to be critical. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Potgieter.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think I'm still a little bit concerned about the delinking of the municipal manager from the political term. I'm not quite understanding the purpose or the advantage of doing such a thing. Currently, the municipal manager's term is 5 years. It's linked to the political term, which obviously enables a new administration to select their municipal manager based on, their sort of ideal candidates. I don't understand how this would fall within the PSC bill. I think it would be more linked to a COGTA piece of legislation, because essentially that's what governs the appointment of the municipal manager and the sort of Section 56 managers at local government level. I'm just, after the outcome of this workshop, where does this fit in to the bill and the role of the DPSA? But also, if we can get a cognizant or a sort of thorough explanation of how this would affect the professionalization of local government, because I'm honestly not seeing it at the moment. I think it would provide a platform for abuse, particularly when there's a change in administrations. And I don't think that is something that we want to see happening at local government, considering the current situations that we're seeing in a lot of local municipalities. Thank you.
Let me just quickly answer that, Honorable Potgieter. So the issue of delinking the term of office of the political principal from the municipal manager is not in the PSC bill, but is actually in the Public Service Act, which is also being considered by Parliament for promulgation. And the principle is enshrined in the National Development Plan, which speaks about the insulation of the public administration from political interference and politics. But I think, Mr. Cameron Jacobs, you could maybe give a more deepened defense of this principle you speak of, so that Honorable Potgieter can better understand it. But it's basically enshrined in the National Development Plan and the Public Service Act. Over to you, Cameron Jacobs.
Yeah, I will respond to that matter by saying, first and foremost, I think it's the PAMA Act or the PAMA Bill that talks about the seamless process between the three spheres as a matter of course. However, the issue that has been raised by Honorable Potgieter is quite important. And I think because it emanated from the engagement in the workshop, we may have to look into it in relation to the pieces of legislation that relates to both local government and the public service. So we can actually say that the matter is noted, and we'll of course take into account concerns and be able to find expression, make sure that they find expression in the final documentation, so that there shouldn't be any conflicts that may arise out of that. Thank you very much.
Mr. Cameron Jacobs, would you like to make additions to what Commissioner Mavuso and I have said?
I'm fine, Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think yes, Commissioner Makanya?
Yeah, no, thank you so much, TC. I think that maybe just to add on that question of role definition that Honorable Dr. Ditlape has raised, it's a fairly critical one, because we certainly are working on that, because the intention of ensuring that we delineate, these roles will guarantee that the implementation of professionalization is going to happen, without any kind of challenges in the process. Because I think this is what the portfolio committee is sensitizing us on, to say that once the work gets underway, we should not be sitting in a situation where now we begin to look at challenges that are beginning to confront us. So we are working on this one, Honorable Chair, or Honorable Dr. Ditlape, because we are certainly conscious of that kind of reality as things currently stand. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Potgieter, are you satisfied, or are you still? I think the issue of this delinking of the roles of the HOD and the political principle is contained in the public service reforms and the acts, the amendment bills which are before Parliament, but it's not enshrined in the Public Service Commission amendment bill. So I think the portfolio committee will have to engage that process as well, so that they also raise their concerns at that level over and beyond the Public Service bill. But otherwise, are you clearer, Honorable Potgieter?
Yes, thank you kindly.
And where it's enshrined legislatively.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm clear. And thanks, Chair. Just with regards to the municipal manager, if we can limit it there, because HODs at local government have already been made permanent through legislation by COGTA very recently. So it's with particular respect to the municipal manager. Thanks.
I meant the municipal manager, Honorable Potgieter, but you can raise it at the level of discussion when it comes to the promulgation of the public sector reform bills, which is the PSA and the PAMA bill before Parliament at present. Thank you very much. Doctor, over to you, Chair. I believe that Dr. Ditlape has raised his hand.
I think one of the things that might probably be considered is to ensure that a municipal manager's term overlaps across elections. I agree with the issue of a fixed term. But given the challenges that we have about coalitions and formations of regulatory structures or councils, we need to ensure that there's continuity of service. And it might be advisable that it will also aid minimizing political interference. The fact that when you come in, you are now going to put in your own municipal manager, we are not depoliticizing public service. We are actually ensuring that there's still political interference. So if the term went across elections, that means a city is assured to be running, irrespective of the political machinations that might occur. It will also provide where there are deficiencies that the manager is still there to account. Some people disappear with their political principles and the billions of South African rands with services not being delivered. So I think let there be a consideration about ensuring that you don't have a manager terminated when an election occurs. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, members and PSC for those valuable inputs. Specifically on the last issue, which I think we can talk about quite to a quite bigger extent when we deal with the two additional public service bills, Palmer and the PSA. So we will definitely have robust engagements on that specific issue. I think we are all trying to do the same thing, but it sounds like there's still a discussion to be had on what is actually the right way to do it. With that, members, we are finished with the presentation and the feedback. We just need to quickly do a set of minutes, just note some minutes from a previous meeting. But representatives from the Public Service Commission, you are excused. You don't need to sit in as we go through our minutes. And thank you very much for attending. And as always, we look forward to lots of further engagements with the Public Service Commission, and we really value your input. Thank you very much. You are excused.
Thank you very much, Chairperson,
Chair.
and thank you to the honorable members of the Portfolio Committee. Bless you until next time.
Thank you. Bless you too.
Bye.
Right. Masi, if you could please flight the minutes so that we can just go adopt them.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon once again to you and honorable members and colleagues. I've got minutes of the 21st, Chair. I've sent this set, I think, a couple of times already, Chair, but due to time when I attend the sittings in Parliament, we don't have time to really go through them. I've got minutes of the 21st of August, 2024, Chair. I'm on page 1.
Members, we will go through them page by page, and if there are any additions or corrections to be made, then a member can just raise their hand or actually just unmute and stop the process. Masi, I'm happy that you take us through page by page. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm on page 2. Page 3. We received the legacy report on the day. The members were given orientation on page 4. On page 5, Chairperson. That's the last page. Thank you so much, Chair. Those
Thank
are the
you.
21 August, Chair.
Yes, thank you very much, members. Do we have a proposer that the minutes be adopted, please? Members, can we have a proposer and a seconder, please? Honorable Potgieter.
Chair, yeah, I'll propose for adoption. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have a seconder? Doctor, would you not maybe do us the honor, please? Members, if there's no one that's going to second, I'm going to then just note that there's no objection to the proposal to have the minutes adopted.
Thank you, Chair. I think we can move in that fashion, Chair, for the sake
you.
of progress.
Yes, thank you.
I've got minutes of the 9th of October, Chair, 2024. On this day, we were receiving the briefings, Chair, the annual reports for PSC to PSI, NSG, CPSI, PSC. I'm on page 1. I'm on page 2. You'll also remember, Chair, that as per norm, we don't factor the discussion in these ones as the discussions are factored on the report. I'm on page 3, Chair. I'm on page 4. We adopted some minutes on the day as well. Those are the minutes of 9 October, Chair, 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I please have a proposer for the adoption? Honorable Knott, please go ahead.
I guess I'll propose again, Chair.
Thank you. If there's no objections, then I think we can move that it's been adopted.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to the minutes of 16th of October. This is the second last one, Chairperson, for the day. I'm on page 1, Chair. Page 1, attendance of members. Honorable Tlabet put an apology. I'm on page 2, Chair.
Chair, can they just correct the spelling for my surname? It's a Tswana Letlape, not a Nguni one. So it's a T and not an H.
That's a fair request. I'm sure they can do that.
Thank you. And
Noted.
I hope it'll correct throughout the documents.
Yes, I'll modify all the necessary documents, Honorable Dr. Letlape. Apologies for that.
No, thank you, sir.
I'm on page 3. That is the last page. Chairperson, thank you so much. Those are the minutes of the 16th of October, 2023. Chair. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Can I have a proposal for the adoption of the minutes? Honorable Knott.
Thanks, Chair. I think Honourable Member Letlape should propose, seeing as they made the changes, but I'll make the proposal. Perhaps he will second.
Doctor, would you please second? I think silence is now approval. Members, if there are no objections to the minutes being adopted, then we can note them as adopted. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairperson. This is the last set of minutes, Chair. This was 23rd October, 2023. I'm on page 1, Chair. I think this is the day we got briefings for the pension redress, and then we had adopted the Pretoria reports. I'm on page 1. I'm going to page 2. I will modify the spelling here, Chairperson, on all the sets and also going forward. I'm on page 2. I'm on page 3. I'm on page 4. This should be the last page, Chairperson. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Can I please have a proposer that we adopt the minutes? Honorable Knott, thank you.
I'll propose. Thanks, Chair.
If there's no seconder, then I will note that there's no objections to the minutes being adopted, and we can then move as the minutes are adopted. Masi, are you satisfied?
Sorted, Chairperson. Thank you so much for your assistance. Yes, Chair. Those were the last sets, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Members, with that, enjoy your Friday. Thank you for your attendance and involvement in the meeting, and I hope all members have a good weekend. This meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.
Recording stopped.